Okay. Good afternoon. Okay, well, I am going to be talking to you a little bit about the continent of Africa, but focusing on colonization. And talking about the colonization, I just want to say that it's not about, putting down the countries that actually done colonization. It's probably a way, for what we should take from it. It's actually how to pray, for those countries and those that continue to colonize, even though it's not actually shown that they are. All right. So here, I guess you guys can see, I am going to talk about, the continent of Africa, Africa. So here, I can't really see this. The letters are so small. Sorry. Okay. So basically, Africa is the largest, second largest continent, close to Asia. It's the second populous in the continent, with the population of 1.2 million since 2016. Billion, pardon. Billion. No, of course, we have Nigeria. Africa, the average of the population is basically, it's much younger compared to the Western countries. So basically, the age group since 2012 is 19 years old, most of the African, and compared to the other nations are 30 years old. So pretty much the nation, the people group in Africa are a lot younger. And Algeria is the largest country in Africa, and Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa. So, and basically there's a large diversity of ethnicity, culture, and languages in Africa. In the late 19th century, that is when Europe were interested to, go and colonize Africa. But among all these countries, there were two countries that were not colonized, which was Ethiopia and Liberia. Ethiopia is because they were able to fight against the Italian who tried to come in, but they were not able to succeed. And Liberia, it is because of the those slaves that were free here in the United States, and they wanted to go back to Africa. So that's how Liberia was created. So, well, let me see. So. Pushing it. Sorry. This one, yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that's because you're in there. There we go.
Okay.
Did you do that one?
Yeah, I did that one. So here I'm going to, here it's basically about talking about Berlin Conference from 1884 to 1885. This is when 14 countries, literally it's actually 15, a lot, that were there, who actually organized, they decided to come together and decide to divide which country each continent or nation of Europe was going to take. So these countries are here. There's Hungary, Australia, Hungary, Belgium, Russia, Italy, Germany, United States. Yes, they were. All these countries were there at that conference to decide which country in Africa that they were interested in. but while they were when this conference took place, there was no African leader present. It was just the European nations present. So basically, they didn't talk to the African leaders. This is what was going to take place. They just decided this is what we're going to do, and we're going there. So in here you can see at the map which country, which nation of Europe colonized who. But the main colonizer that I'm going to focus on is the British and the French, because they're all the one who definitely did the most colonization in Africa. So you can see in the red, France colonized most of the Western Africa. You can see the red here. It's France. So they colonized all these places. And then you can see Britain in blue. So they colonized all these countries in blue. I'm sorry. Okay. So, but the other countries, yes, even though they are present there, you can see Spain, and you may wonder what it is, colonized. Yeah, Spain did colonize one country, which is Equatorial Guinea, but they're not in the control of Spain. It's not in the control of France. So even though they speak Spanish there, but it's France who definitely gave what the regulations of that country. And then there is also the Italian. Of course, just what I said earlier about Ethiopia. So they never succeed, colonizing Ethiopia. So I'll move on. And here it tells you the motives of the colonization, imperialism. So basically, the reason why they decided to go and colonize this country, because there was interest. And in the late 1800s, the Britain was really powerful, and they didn't want to lose such a power. So they saw interest in Africa. So to enhance their economy. So for them, they saw Africa was one of those countries where it hasn't been developed. So there was, for the economy reason, it was the great, for raw material, it was also to have a national market. And then for politics, it was competition. You can still see that in nowadays, in Europe, the main powers, those that have enough money, is the one who get to decide. So that's basically the same, and also pride, and then also social Darwinism. So basically, they saw that because they had sophisticated weapon to defeat the Africans, so they felt that they were superior to the Africans. So and then here, the next, I am going to talk a little bit about the British way of versus the French way of colonizing. So the British had a various system of governance in their African colonies, which they use. I am going to explain some of them here. Sorry. If I can find it. Sorry. Nope. Oh, yeah. So basically, the trading, this trading system was basically they brought companies, British companies, or they create these companies like like the United African Company and United Trading Company in West Africa. So these companies were formed. they were formed by business person who were interested only in exploiting the riches of the continent of Africa. So the whole thing that they have these business companies there, it wasn't to develop the African. It was just for them to gain. So and then they had their own way of ruling of developing these countries. So the African had no rights. And the other thing was that they have here. It was I don't know if you can see. This is the trading company, and then they have the indirect rule. And the indirect rules was the British used African traditional ruler to work on their behalf and help dominate their fellow African. So basically, they had the Africans that were already rulers in these countries. They used them, to dominate over the other groups. So for them, that's how that's why it's called indirect rules. So the example of the Igbo war, between the other ethnies. So that was caused because of these type of rules that they had. And then they also had, I don't know if you can see here, the settler rule. The settler rule was basically Britain brought in a lot of the immigrants, their own people, to settle in these countries that they've colonized. So basically, just like South Africa. So they wanted these people to leave, just basically take over, just like what they did in South Africa. And then there's the last one is the Condominium Government, and this one was basically the joint rule of Egypt and Britain of Sudan. So they had another way. So basically, Sudan, the Arab was controlling the other part of Sudan, and the Britain was controlling the other part of Sudan. But the majority group was led by the British, and the minority group was led by the Arab. And the Arab really didn't had so much discrimination against the other group, which constantly caused genocide between the two. So this just shows me, just goes on to show how the British, their way of colonizing, they weren't interested in wanting to know the Africans. For them was all about the interest and being the number one, because there was competition between those 14 countries that signed up. They wanted to be always known as the number one. And it goes on, and now with the French, it was a little bit different. The French, their system was more different. They were more centralized and bureaucratic. So basically, they wanted to be closer to the Africans. They tried to be, teach them their ways. They basically just kind of wanted to take over their culture instead of understanding, the cultures of these countries, these people. So in order for the Africans in those countries to be recognized, they needed to learn how to speak French. And so if they were able to speak French, they were accepted in the French society. But looking at what they were doing, they had a purpose for it. For them, it was just to win the interest of the people, so that they could do what they want to do. So, and here so there's an article in March 2008. a former French president had said that without Africa, France will slide down in the rank of a third world power. Yes, because basically without these colonial, France would never be what it is today. So France is today maybe number 5 power in the United Nations. It's because of Africa, but without it, it would never be what it is today. So that's exactly what Jacques Chirac said. So I have one of the article that I couldn't print out. It's about one of the guy from Equatorial Guinea. Sékou Touré of Guinea decided in 1958 to get out of French colonial empire and hoped for the country independence. The French colonial in Paris got so furious, and in a hysterical act of fury, the French administration in Guinea destroyed everything in the country, which represented what they called the benefit from French colonization. So because he didn't want to be part of this colonial anymore, so the French got very furious and they destroyed everything. So they sent out 3,000 French to this country, taking all their property and destroying anything which could not be moved. School, nursery, public administration, building were crumbled, cars, books, medicine, research, animals, farms. They destroyed everything because Sékou Touré decided that he wanted his country to be free. He didn't want to be part of that colonial. So for them, for the French, it was a way to show other countries that if they dare decide to get out from the colonial, this is what's going to happen. And not only that they burned that, but they also killed them. So, but how did they do that? They normally send out somebody that was part of the army, because most of these Africans served in the army for the French to liberate France from the Nazi. There was about 3 million Africans that fight for the World War II to help France, and despite that, they weren't considered as equal. So, and then we also have another guy. It was the president of the Republic of Togo, a tiny country in West Africa, found a middle ground solution with the French. He didn't want his country to continue to be French domination. Therefore, he refused to sign colonization and Pact de Gaulle. So it was basically these things started with de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle. Proposal, but agreed to pay an annual debt to France for the so-called benefit. Togo got from France colonization. It was the only condition for the French not to destroy the country. So, however, the amount estimated by the French was so big that the reimbursement of the so-called colonial debt was close to 40% of the country budget in 1963. So either if they decided to leave and decided to pay these annual, this is how much they owe. So still today, this country of Togo is still paying debt to France. And the franc CFA, this is the currency that we use, that's used in most of the Western countries colonized by the French. So basically, this money is not being processed in our countries. It's been processed in France. So if France decide to not process money, these countries wouldn't have money. So every year, these 14 countries are paying about 40 billion euro to France. We don't know why we're paying it. Is it because of the language? We don't know. So, so, so on top of that, I just wanted to point out too that to that article there was an article by the Italian newspaper that also kind of brought the same thing to attention to the Euro Union, the European Union. The Prime Minister of Italy was very furious, and he asked the EU to sanction France for impoverishing Africa. So this article came in January of this year, and because why is France still taking money from this country? And the same thing 2 years ago or a year ago, China, because any country that needs, for instance, my country in Gabon, if any, like China is interested to do some business in order for them to do, they have to really have the permission of the French. And it's like, well, I thought it's an independent country. Is it a colony or is, but on paper it is. It says that we are, independent, but really we're not. We're still dependent, on the French. As far as when it comes to elections, I think in 2016, the majority of Gabonese people really went on and voted for the change, for president. We voted for Ping, and the French knew that. But since they saw that Ping was not the person that who's going to listen and follow their ways, so they made sure that Bongo Ali Ben keeps that the power, even though it shows that he didn't win. But a lot of them came on France 24. A lot of the president or Macron saying that, yes, I do believe that they rigged the election. But once Macron became president, he's like, oh yeah, I don't know. I think Bongo is still president, and he welcomed him, of course, because they always bring money to those presidents for them to keep their powers. So here, this is just to show you, the strongest economy in the richest country in Africa. Well, Nigeria is one of the countries that has a strong economy in Africa. And then you do the comparison where the richest country, it's about the resources. Gabon is one of them. Equatorial Guinea is. But if you look at Gabon, yes, it does have all those natural resources. We're really rich on that. But does the people benefit these things? No, we don't. I would say 90% of our Gabonese are poor, and the 10% of the are rich in Gabon. So basically, yes, we have all these riches, but it's not for the people. It's only for these colonizer and the people that they place in power to benefit from that. So we basically conclude my presentation. And if you have any questions, you can ask me.